Hi, and welcome to We Saved You a Place, a show on ATXN dedicated to exploring the stories, people, and places that shape our city's identity. I'm your guest host, Alan Garcia, and I'm with the Texas Historical Commission's Cemetery Preservation Program. We work with communities across the state to record and protect historic cemeteries. We Saved You a Place aims to bring you thoughtful conversations about historic preservation, what it means, why it matters, and how it connects us to our past, present, and future. Today we'll be talking about historic cemeteries and the unique community stories they preserve. We'll also talk about how descendants and volunteers can protect and care for historic cemeteries as our city grows. I'm joined by three community leaders who play instrumental roles in stewarding local cemeteries across Austin. Joaquin Rodriguez is the founding organizer and chairman for the San Jose Montopolis Cemetery Association, which stewards the San Jose 1 and 2 cemeteries in East Austin. Joaquin has family members buried at cemeteries throughout Austin. Adelaide Roueche-Beard is part of Save Austin Cemeteries, an organization that plays a major role in education and conservation at Oakwood Cemetery, a city-owned cemetery. Adelaide studies anthropology at UT and is preparing for graduate school in art conservation with a focus on funerary monuments. Sue Spears-Martin has been a steward of Bethany Cemetery in East Austin for 30 years and currently serves as president of the Bethany Cemetery Association. A native Austinite, Sue has been involved in community projects for decades, including the East Austin Watershed Task Force. Thank you all for being here. Historic cemeteries are one of my favorite topics to talk about, so let's get started. First question, and let's go in order of cemetery age. So I think Oakwood is the oldest, so we'll start with you, Adelaide. Just tell us why cemeteries are important.
I think cemeteries are important because they're an open air archive in many ways. They will tell you concrete facts about who lived here, when they lived here, and you can glean a lot of information about what the city was like, who made it how it is now. And it is also a way to learn a bit more about the individuals that made up Austin in its early days. You can tell what their religious affiliation was. You can tell who their families were.
Awesome. Sue, how would you answer that? Why cemeteries are important?
Just like Adeline said, I do believe that cemeteries are a living archive. They tell the story of who came before us. And my main focus is on the cemeteries in East Austin and historically slave cemeteries. And I believe that they're very important that we preserve them and save their stories for future generations, because a lot of our history is being erased and forgotten. So when we go out and we work to preserve the cemetery and we gather the stories there, I think it's so important that those cemeteries and those stories that lay out there carry on for the next generation. So it's important that we preserve them.
Great answer, Sue. Thank you. Joaquin, why are cemeteries important?
Well, pretty much everything that my colleagues here mentioned. The only thing I would add is that Austin has a very long history, and a lot of the work that we do, and there are also people missing from the conversation here, because there's a Park Springs Cemetery, which is east of Austin. There's another cemetery stewarded by Cheryl Johnson, Williamson Creek Cemetery. Right. It's in South Austin. And so so there's a number of us doing this kind of work. Yes. And built on what has previously said, I will just add that we work in these separate cemeteries as a response to more segregated times. We wouldn't be doing this work if we hadn't had the history in Austin that we've had. So so in doing our respective work, we all face the same challenges and the same opportunities. And so it's just really the work that we do is really important, because there are a lot of people who are descendants of family members who resided here a long time ago, and those people need to be brought in and made kind of kind of reunited with their loved ones, and that to me gives me great satisfaction to know that we have a Facebook page of over 1,000 people. And when I look down the list of people who are members of our Facebook page, those last names are actually names that are in the cemetery. So there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity, and so it's important to do this work because it's the connecting segment between the past and the living, the present.
Thank you. Adelaide, what is your role in preserving and stewarding local cemeteries?
I think my primary role is really the hands-on work that I do in the cemetery under our Monuments Conservator Ryan Dees. We are out there on the ground resetting, releveling, and reconstructing monuments that have otherwise fallen over or become obscured. Additionally, with Save Austin Cemeteries, I help do research and create public-facing archival work that we can show people when they come to the cemetery. These are the people that are buried here. Here are some of their stories. Here's why you should care. Here's why you should come back.
And Sue, what is your role in preserving and stewarding local cemeteries?
My role at Bethany is to help preserve it and also to protect it from the surrounding gentrification that is fastly approaching the skirts of the cemetery. There's development coming on almost all sides of the cemetery. So that's my biggest thing. And also to collect the stories of the people that are buried there and archive them, and also make people aware, of the people that are buried there and what those stories are. And so those are some of the biggest things that I think I'm responsible for. First, to preserve it, the maintenance of it, and also to collect the stories and make those stories available for anyone who's out there looking for maybe a family member or interested in just Black history here in Austin. So those are some of the things that, I focus on.
Yeah. Joaquin, what about your role with San Jose?
So I would say that my coming into this work was kind of out of the blue. It was the last thing in the world I thought I would be doing, and part of it is a response to research that I had been doing in my own ancestry, and I could talk a lot about that. But the main thing is that it connected me to my maternal history in Austin. With I have a lot of relatives buried at Assumption Cemetery, probably at Oakwood as well, and of course San Jose Cemetery. And so the work that I do is not only steward the cemetery, but similar to Sue, we organize, we do cleanups, we do community events, we educate, we try to do further research to help people reunite and provide information for people that are looking for their family. We have 2 cemeteries actually. San Jose Cemetery, the one on Montopolis, is the oldest one, and it was started in about 1917, something like that. We only can establish these facts based on existing paperwork. We don't know what happened before that. So I always use that as a caveat because it's important to understand that we can only go by what is on what's documented, even though it's likely that things started happening well before that. And so because San Jose Cemetery was never owned by a church or an organization, it was a community cemetery, and people just brought their family members there to be buried. After a while, the original San Jose Cemetery filled up. Another piece of land adjacent to it was expanded, and then that filled up really quickly. And then in the late 40s, once the San Jose Cemetery had reached its capacity, another piece of land was acquired about 3 miles away. And there, totally different challenges, very unique situation there, but it's 4.5 acres of land that we already know has been the focus of land speculation, meaning someone could come in using the health and safety code and basically disinter those people that are there and then build whatever they wanted to. on that piece of land. So it's even more advocate work for that cemetery because it's so vulnerable to development, as Sue well knows.
Yeah, very timely work. Yeah, thank you. This is kind of hard for people to understand why we get involved with cemeteries, so I'm curious how each of you will answer. Adelaide, what got you started in working with cemeteries, and what about that work motivates you?
So I had always felt a sense of fascination towards Oakwood Cemetery in particular, but I really started getting involved when I moved into my student housing cooperative. It's an 1887 Victorian mansion, and when I started doing research on my house, I found out that the original family who had built it were buried in Oakwood Cemetery, and I basically went and knocked down the door saying, please let me come in, I want to do something here to like physically recognize these people who created the space that I love. So they were some of the first graves that I ever cleaned. I went through the whole process, reaching out to the descendants of that original family, getting their permission, and then going out and assessing them all and cleaning them all, and it was just a really beautiful experience. I'm not related to them in any way, shape, or form, but I felt like it sort of came down to me at some point that this would be something that I could do for my community.
Awesome. Oakwood is part of my origin story with cemeteries as well. Falling in love with them for the first time there, so that's really special. Sue, what about you? What's your beginning with cemeteries and how
my
that
beginning
motivates
with
you?
cemeteries really just happened by mistake. It started with a personal concern of mine because I was really at the time grieving the loss of my nephew who drowned in a creek near Bethany Cemetery. And my concern was the safety for kids in East Austin as it relates to creeks and parks. So when parents at Sims Elementary School started telling me that they had some safety concerns about this overgrown lot that the kids were using a trail to get to and from school, then, I started researching and said, well, okay, who owns this lot? And then just taking a walk over there, I started seeing stones. And so that pretty much started my relationship with Bethany Cemetery. And as I did further research, I found out that there were slave narratives at the History Center, and there were actually slaves buried in the cemetery. And so that in itself just kind of catapulted me, and I was like, okay, these people that went through so much during their lifetime and were disrespected in their lifetime, and now they're buried in an overgrown lot. And I just thought that that shouldn't be. And so that started my work at Bethany Cemetery. And here we are 30 years later, and I'm still advocating for the cemetery. And like I said, as the area changes around the cemetery, it has become more important for me to find out the stories of the people that are buried there and have them recorded for history, and to keep the cemetery maintained. And I have really big goals for it. I'm hoping that at some point Bethany will become a place where people can go to find out information about the people that came before us.
Thank you. Joaquin, you kind of answered it a little bit before how you got started. I'm wondering, at San Jose, what is it that motivates you to stay involved with the cemetery?
Well, I constantly ask myself that question all the time because it's not easy work. You're very dependent on other people, and other people have other things going on. So the amount of contributors are sometimes inconsistent and sometimes not existent. I do want to say that again, kind of going back to my ancestral work, I began my work in cemeteries in Presidio, Texas. That is where my maternal family lived for hundreds of years. And I found our family cemetery, and I actually began to do preservation work there. And then a couple of years later, I found San Jose Cemetery, and I was looking for relatives of mine. And it was in December, and I noticed there were tea light candles at every grave and dried flowers. And then I realized that that was a result of a Dia de Muertos event that happened in November. And through a number of interesting events, I found the arts organization that actually did that event, and on the same day that I discovered San Jose Cemetery is when I also found the second cemetery. And I went to the second cemetery and was looking for it for about 2 hours, and it was so obscured, so overgrown, that when I was about to give up, and as I was leaving, then I saw a headstone, and I was appalled at the shape that cemetery was in. I just found it, I didn't even know if I had family at the time that was buried there, but just my heart was bleeding, because here was a sacred space, sacred ground, and it was full of litter, all sorts of things. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know Sue. I didn't know anybody who was doing this work. And that night, I didn't get very much sleep, actually. And the next morning, when I did finally get to sleep, I woke up with this idea: I need to start an organization. And so I just followed that intuitively. I didn't even know how to create a nonprofit. So it's all been a learning experience for all of us that do this work. And so to me, I have a very intimate connection, not only with San Jose One Cemetery on Montopolis, because I have 3 relatives there, but then this past year, I actually uncovered the funeral marker, the burial marker for a great uncle of mine. So now I'm connected specifically to San Jose Two Cemetery. And one thing I'll say real quickly too, earlier when I was speaking about other cemeteries, Williamson Creek Cemetery, Park Springs Cemetery, even in Montopolis, just less than 2 miles away from the present San Jose Cemetery is another slave cemetery called Burdett Prairie, and Carol Johnson is kind of the caretaker of that cemetery, and I wanted to give her props too.
No, thank you for that. I know our program has documented over 250 cemeteries in Austin, Travis County alone, so there's a lot of work to be done.
There's a
there.
small cemetery actually where the intersection in Del Valle, where 183, the Lockhart Highway, intersects with 71, where that whole massive overpasses are. There's actually a cemetery underneath that expressway area.
Wow. Well, that's a great segue into just a question about Austin and how Austin has changed, and the challenges that cemeteries face connecting with descendants when they don't live in the city anymore. This is an issue that affects rural cemeteries that are losing population, but also a place like Austin where, Sue, like you mentioned, gentrification development has pushed people out, and it's a challenge to connect. So I'm wondering, how do you connect with descendants if they don't live in the area, and how you invite them to join? Adelaide, I'll start with you.
Sure. We're lucky at Oakwood that a lot of descendant communities do still come out to the cemetery, even hundreds of years separated from the people that they have buried there. But in many cases, it's through our conservation work that we come to know the descendants of individual families, many of whom don't know that they have anyone buried here in Austin. We're able to use online databases like Ancestry to locate and reach out to descendants. And once they're made aware that they have someone buried here, a lot of them will sometimes make the trek out to see their family plot, which is really rewarding. And many of them will stay in touch over many years. It's really just making that step to reach out to people.
Yeah. Sue, how do you get people connected?
Well, first I want to say that our relationships with cemeteries have really changed over the years. In the African American communities, we used to go out as families and take care of the cemeteries. Like, you know, the whole family would come out, and while cleaning the cemeteries, it would be kind of like a mini family reunion, you know, and that's how we maintained our cemeteries. You know, we had certain dates that we would go out. And the way that we connect with the community now is through our social media posts. We try to post some of the stories of the people out there, or the list of names of people that are buried in Bethany. We have tours. We do tours. You know, we have our website that we're working on constantly to update as we find different graves. We, you know, people call us and say, well, you know, I was told that, you know, I had a relative buried there, and we try to help those people. We have help from the Art Fellows who, you know, do great work out there helping to fix the stones that are broken. So there's a lot of different ways that we reach out to the community. Our events, we have yearly events. We have a Black History event. We're one of the sites for Keep Austin Beautiful event. Of course, we have a big Juneteenth event every year. So during those events, we usually meet people, and you know, we try to stay connected. And we, like I said, we use a lot of social media posts to try to bring people in.
Yeah, I know I'm a follower on Instagram and Facebook. Joaquin, same question. How do you keep descendants involved and newcomers at San Jose?
Right. Probably the same. I don't mean to speak as these events are insular to San Jose Cemetery, because I know it's true for all the cemeteries, especially Sue's cemetery. But you know, there are family members, descendants. They're elders. They come out to the cemetery when they can, and they tend to take care of the plots of their father or their parents or their uncle or aunt, that kind of thing. So so it's kind of happenstance that as an organizer for San Jose Cemetery, is that in as much time as I've spent driving by there, because I used to live in that neighborhood, I would stop when anybody was doing work on their family and make connections. And that is really very fulfilling, because they also are aware that someone else is paying attention. They're also aware that someone else cares. And so having them as elders in our work is really was really a blessing, because when we have 2 major cleanups a year in which we invite the community to participate. They meet those elders, they make those connections. And like Sue, we utilize Facebook, Instagram. We have a blog site where we put up updates and that kind of thing. And so anything that we do, whether it's cleanups or we find a marker that's been buried, those are educational opportunities that we have to inform excuse me, our community of the work that's being done. And so there's a lot of neighborhood engagement, because people you know, may not have descendants there, but it's in their neighborhood, and I think they understand just intuitively the humanity involved in doing cemetery work, that they feel compelled to be involved. And then we have the Dia de Muertos event the end of October, 1st of November, and that brings a lot of community people out. We also do collaborations with East Austin arts organizations. We also work with Keep Austin Beautiful. They've been a great asset to us. In some of our cleanups, we've had so much brush to get out of the cemetery. They've actually coordinated the use of a huge dumpster, and on one year we had that dumpster was completely filled full of limbs and branches and things like that. So so the work that we do in the cemetery also involves you know, community-based nonprofits that are invaluable to the work we do.
Thank you. So what are ways people can get involved with your cemetery? Adelaide, how can people get involved at Oakwood?
We will host public events. We have cleanings that are available to the public, concrete base pouring workshops, but we also have more general, less active ways to come into the cemetery. So you can join the tours that we put on. We have one that will be launching in April that is specifically looking at different architects who are buried in Oakwood Cemetery. Those would be two of the biggest ways. You can also, of course, get involved directly with Save Austin Cemeteries through our website, see what's going on, talk to us via email, and if you have someone buried in Oakwood Cemetery, please reach out. We would love to connect with you.
Awesome. Sue, how can people get involved at Bethany?
We would love to have people get involved with our cleanups, the events that we hold, which, you know, we are doing a whole lot of that now because it's important that we stay connected to the community. So we're putting the information out there. They can visit our website to get more information about what's going on and even read some of the stories that we have started collecting so they can get a better feel of what's going on at Bethany. And, you know, we're always available for people to contact us to see how they can get involved. Of course, they can make donations. We're always looking for donations, volunteers, in-kind donations to the cemetery. All they have to do is reach out, and there's plenty of ways for them to contact us either through our social media or our website.
Thank you. Joaquin, how can people get involved at San Jose?
Yeah, I would say the main thing is pay attention because there is a lot of work going on throughout cemeteries in Austin. I mean, not just ours. We have social media, ATX Hispanic Cemetery on Facebook, San Jose Cemetery ATX on Instagram. We'd love, I mean, because this is a Mexican-American cemetery and Sue's a black cemetery, you don't have to be one or the other to bring your talent and your capacity to the work that we do. We invite, we're very inclusive in terms of trying to educate and involve as many people as we can in this work because, like I said earlier, it is not easy work. It is not, it's crazy why we would even do this, but I think our ancestors call us or we're compelled to do this work because we have to represent. And so, we have come to our events that we have. We also have a community tamalada, which is a tamale making thing prior to Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos. We invite the community to come and learn how to make tamales, you know, and we give those away at the Day of the Dead event. So there are a lot of events. If you pay attention to social media, you can get involved in any way, shape, or form by bringing resources or just bringing your hands and your feet and your legs and your back and it's just and very appreciative for this program to help bring awareness into the community about the work that we're all doing.
Of course, thank you for that. I feel like there's a lot of myths that we try to get over, right, with cemeteries that kind of keep people away from getting involved. Sadly, I think they feel that they're not welcome in a cemetery. They think it's a spooky thing, that it's not for them. But I love that y'all have touched on all these themes of how to bring people in, how to be in the presence of our ancestors while we're there and respect them, right, through this work of cleanups, programming, inviting people in. I've had the pleasure of spending time at all three of these cemeteries, and I would highly recommend visitors to Austin to visit each one because it really is like an open air classroom. You can learn so much about the city and people buried there. So I want to thank you all for sharing the stories.
Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure to speak with you all. You know, these cemeteries really are at the root of Austin's history. Sue, I think about your slogan with Bethany, every stone has a story.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the perfect closing to this episode, to remind people that stories all around us at these cemeteries, and it's up to us to take care of them, preserve them.